If you enjoyed this story of how a simple mechanic and a powerful businesswoman crossed paths in the most unexpected way, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know how far this story has traveled. Let's get started. The afternoon sun streamed through the half-open garage door, painting streaks of light across the concrete floor. Alex didn't look up at first. He was too immersed in tightening the last bolt on the Mustang's engine. The rhythmic clink of his wrench echoed in the quiet, mixing with the faint hum of traffic outside. He'd lived his whole life surrounded by machines, their steady noise more comforting than most people's words. This garage wasn't just where he worked. It was where he felt alive, where every spark, every turn of a wrench reminded him of his late father who taught him. As the shadow of the sleek car fell across the entrance, Alex finally lifted his head. The contrast between his humble shop and the luxury vehicle parked at the edge of the bay was startling. Dusty shelves lined with tools stood behind him, while this car gleamed like it belonged in a showroom. He wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand, curiosity flickering in his tired eyes. People with cars like that didn't usually end up here. They had dealerships and private mechanics. What was she doing here? The driver stepped out with elegance that seemed out of place in his gritty world. She wore a tailored blazer that hugged her frame and heels that clicked sharply against the cement floor. Every movement spoke of confidence, even control. But her eyes, sharp assessing, lingered on him in a way that felt less like a client sizing up a mechanic and more like a predator examining prey. For a brief moment, Alex felt exposed, his stained overalls suddenly too humble for the setting. "You're a mechanic, man?" she asked, her voice laced with amusement, her lips curled into a smirk as she tilted her head. "You're way too handsome to just fix cars." The words landed somewhere between a compliment and a challenge, carrying a spark that caught Alex off guard. He wasn't used to that kind of attention. In this shop, he was greased hands and hard work, nothing more. But her tone suggested she saw something else, something beyond the layers of oil and sweat. Alex's instinct was to deflect. He gave a short chuckle and returned his gaze to the car, muttering, "Ingences don't care what a man looks like." His voice was calm but firm, carrying the quiet confidence of someone who'd spent years proving his worth through action, not appearance. He didn't want her charm to distract him. She might have been wealthy, stylish, even beautiful, but she was still just another client. At least that's what he told himself. But she didn't leave it at that. Instead, she leaned against the hood of her car, crossing her arms, her eyes never leaving him. "Maybe," she replied smoothly, "but I'd bet you could be doing a lot more than hiding away in this little garage." Her words carried weight, as if she wasn't just making conversation. It was as though she was testing him, seeing if she could shake his ground. Alex set his wrench down and finally met her gaze, steady and unflinching. There was a flicker of something in her eyes when he didn't back down, a mix of surprise and intrigue. Most men probably stammered or tried to impress her. Alex, on the other hand, had no interest in playing games. Life had already hardened him, carved him into someone who valued honesty over flattery. "I'm not hiding," he said quietly, wiping his hands on a rag. "I'm building piece by piece, car by car. This garage feeds my family." His words weren't defensive, but carried the weight of truth, the kind that couldn't be dismissed. For a moment, silence filled the garage. Outside, the sound of a passing motorcycle cut through the stillness, but inside the air seemed charged, heavy with unspoken tension. She studied him as if reevaluating her first impression. Maybe she expected a mechanic to be nervous, intimidated by her presence. Instead, she'd found someone grounded, unshaken by sharp words or a pretty face. Something about that seemed to interest her more than she cared to admit. Alex, meanwhile, kept his focus steady, reminding himself not to get pulled into her world. Finally, she broke the silence with a small shrug. "Fair enough," she said, her voice losing some of its edge. "My name's Veronica, and this car, well, it's been giving me trouble. I heard you're the best around." Alex raised an eyebrow at that. He hadn't advertised his work anywhere fancy, yet somehow her words suggested she had sought him out. The thought nagged at him, though he didn't let it show. He simply motioned for her to bring the car closer into the bay, choosing action over questions. As she drove the sleek car fully into the garage, Alex took a deep breath, steadying himself. This wasn't just another job. He could feel it in the air, the way her presence seemed to change the room, the way his pulse quickened despite his efforts to remain composed. She was dangerous in a way no broken engine ever could be. But as he popped open the hood and leaned over the machinery, he reminded himself of the one truth that had guided him his entire life. No matter how complicated the person, no matter how tangled the story, every engine had a way to be fixed. Alex chuckled under his breath, though the sound carried more weight than humor. He was used to people looking straight through him, dismissing him as nothing more than the grease under his fingernails. But her comment lingered, brushing against the part of him that rarely heard words beyond car parts and labor costs. Most clients never asked about the man fixing their car. They just wanted results. Yet this woman, Victoria, had chosen to look deeper, if only for amusement. Alex tried to ignore the odd stir it caused inside, focusing instead on loosening a stubborn bolt near her engine's manifold. Victoria leaned gracefully against the garage wall, her arms crossed, watching every move. She wasn't just a woman waiting for her car. She studied him like a puzzle, eyes narrowing with each gesture. "So why hide in a garage when you could be anywhere?" she pressed, her voice sharp but not unkind. It was the tone of someone used to peeling away layers, used to getting answers. Alex didn't flinch. He adjusted his grip, gave the bolt one last twist, and it clicked free. His voice was steady, as though carved from stone, "Because here I'm needed." The words landed heavier than she expected. Victoria, who spent her days in corner offices filled with city views, wasn't used to hearing someone speak with such conviction. People usually wanted to impress her, to be close to her money or her influence.